The self-care industry is worth somewhere around $10 billion a year globally. And most of it, the bath bombs, the face masks, the meditation apps you open twice and then forget about, doesn't actually work, not the way people think it does. I'm not saying relaxation is fake. I'm saying that what we call unwinding is usually just switching from one screen to another, and those are not the same thing. There's a real difference between occupying yourself and actually recovering. Occupation means your attention is pointed somewhere so it can't spiral. Recovery means your nervous system actually gets a chance to reset. Most passive entertainment does the first thing. Very little of it does the second. And one of the things that keeps showing up is making things with your hands, what we now broadly call crafting. Wood carving, knitting, ceramics, anything where you take raw material and produce something that wasn't there before. I want to talk about why. Not in a soft, crafting is so meditative way. Think about what you actually do when you're exhausted. You open YouTube, you scroll TikTok, Instagram, you put on something you've already seen because new content requires too much attention. It feels like rest because you're not moving and you're not working. But your nervous system doesn't experience it as rest. The reason is simple. None of those activities close a loop. You watch something and then more content starts. You scroll down and there's always more to scroll. There's no moment where the activity says done, and the brain, which evolved to track whether your efforts led anywhere, sits there waiting for a resolution that never comes. Kelly Lambert is a neuroscientist at the University of Richmond. She's spent decades studying what she calls effort-based rewards, the idea that the human brain's reward system evolved specifically in response to physical effort that produces a visible result. Her argument is that our hands and our brain developed together. We didn't just use our hands to build things. Using our hands to build things is part of how our reward system learned to function. When you make something with your hands, you activate a part of the dopamine reward circuit that passive consumption almost never touches, and it matters which part. Dopamine is not the pleasure chemical. That's a simplification that doesn't hold up. Dopamine is closer to the I did that chemical. It fires in response to actions that lead to outcomes. It's motivational, not hedonic. It's what closes the loop. That's what making something fixes. Not because it's calming, sometimes it's actually frustrating, but because it closes the loop. You acted, something changed. You can see the result. When you sit down to carve, or really to do any kind of craft, a few things happen in sequence, and it's worth knowing what they are. The first thing is that your attention narrows, not because you're forcing it to, but because your hands are doing something that requires just enough focus to crowd out everything else. You can't hold the right angle and simultaneously run through your to-do list. There isn't room. The verbal mental chatter quiets down because your brain is occupied with something that doesn't use language. Tracking pressure, adjusting grip, reading the resistance of the wood. This is what people call mindfulness when they do it intentionally in a quiet room with an app telling them to breathe. Carving produces the same cognitive state as a side effect. You don't have to try for it. The second thing is that you get immediate feedback on everything you do. Every cut either works or it doesn't. If you went against the grain, the wood tells you instantly. If your angle was off, the surface tells you. If the knife needed stropping, the result tells you. There's no delay between action and consequence. That feedback loop, action, immediate result, adjustment, is something most modern knowledge work has almost completely removed from daily life. You can spend 3 weeks writing a strategy document and have no idea whether it worked. You can send 50 emails and not know if any of them landed. The outcome is always somewhere downstream, always delayed, always mediated by someone else's response. Carving is not like that. The outcome is right there, under your hands, updating in real time. The third mechanism is bilateral stimulation. Using both hands in a coordinated, rhythmic way, one holding the wood, one guiding the knife, activates both hemispheres of the brain simultaneously. The same bilateral pattern is the mechanism behind EMDR therapy, which uses alternating bilateral stimulation to help process stress and anxiety. Nobody's making the claim that carving is therapy, but the neurological overlap is not a coincidence. A 2016 study published in the British Journal of Occupational Therapy surveyed over 3,500 knitters about their mental state before and after knitting. 81% reported feeling happy during knitting. Frequency of practice correlated with lower anxiety scores and higher perceived cognitive function. The specific craft doesn't matter much. The knitting researchers used knitting because it was easy to study. The hand-brain engagement is what does the work. The specific tool doesn't matter, the specific project doesn't matter. What matters is that your hands are doing something that your brain can track and respond to. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi was a Hungarian-American psychologist who spent 30 years studying what he called flow, the mental state where you are completely absorbed in an activity, time seems to disappear, and the work feels almost effortless even when it's genuinely demanding. His research, which drew on interviews with thousands of people across different domains, athletes, artists, surgeons, chess players, identified 3 conditions that reliably produce flow. First, the challenge level has to be right. Too easy and you're bored and your mind wanders. Too hard and you're anxious and can't maintain concentration. There's a narrow corridor in between where flow lives, and you can only find it when the task is difficult enough to require your full attention, but not so difficult that it overwhelms you. Second, there has to be immediate, clear feedback. You have to know in real time whether what you're doing is working. Third, you have to have a genuine sense of control, not certainty. You can make mistakes in flow, but the feeling that your actions are directly connected to the result. Guided meditation is genuinely hard to get into flow with, and I think a lot of people sense this without being able to name why. The task is essentially doing nothing, and doing nothing is surprisingly hard to calibrate. The challenge level is either too low, you sit there and your mind wanders immediately, or unexpectedly high, because clearing your thoughts turns out to be something you have to work at. The feedback is almost non-existent. You can't tell in real time how well you're doing, and the sense of control is fragile. Every distraction makes you feel like you're failing. I'm not saying meditation doesn't work. The evidence that it does is solid. I'm saying it's a skill that takes time to develop, and most beginners never get there because the entry experience is genuinely difficult. Carving hits all 3 flow conditions from the first session. The difficulty scales naturally. A beginner gets absorbed in a simple straight cut, an experienced carver gets absorbed in a complex form. The feedback is instant and physical, and the sense of control is real because the result is right there in your hands. This is why carvers consistently describe losing track of time, an hour that feels like 15 minutes, not because they're dissociating from something unpleasant, because they're fully present in something that's absorbing the right amount of their attention. That's a different experience than the hour you lose to Instagram, which also seems to disappear but leaves you feeling hollow rather than settled. The time disappears in both cases. The aftermath is completely different. There's one more mechanism worth talking about, and it's the most straightforward one. At the end of a carving session, you have an object, not a score on an app, not a notification you responded to, not a feeling that fades within minutes, a physical thing that you made that exists in the world and that didn't exist before you sat down. I've talked to a lot of people who started carving as something to try and ended up doing it for years. The ones who stick with it almost always say a version of the same thing. I didn't realize how much I missed making something real, not making something impressive, not making something that other people would notice or compliment, just making something something that required their hands and their attention and left a mark in the world that they could pick up and hold. That's not a small thing. It sounds small when you describe it, but the effect of having that regularly, reliably, on how you feel about your days is genuinely significant, backed up not just by the research, but by the fact that people keep doing it. Most crafts will get you to these mechanisms: the feedback loop, the flow state, the physical object at the end. Wood carving has a few things that make it particularly accessible as an entry point. The material is honest. Wood tells you everything in real time. The resistance changes when you go against the grain. The sound changes when the knife needs stropping. The surface tells you whether your angle was right. You can't pretend you did it correctly when you didn't, but you also know immediately when you did, and that's just as useful. It's also genuinely portable in a way that most crafts aren't. You don't need a kiln, a loom, a workshop, or a specific room. A knife and a block of basswood and a place to sit. People carve during their lunch break, at the kitchen table after the kids go to sleep, on the back porch in the morning before the day starts. The entry point is low too. You don't need to develop a technique for months before you produce something satisfying. An afternoon with the right knife and the right wood, following a pattern, watching a short tutorial, and you have a finished object in your hands by the end of the session. The first one won't be perfect, but it will be real, and it will be yours, and it will have taken about 4 hours of your attention, which is 4 hours when the loop was closed. If you want to try wood carving, we have beginner kits in the description. They come with the wood, the knife, a pattern to follow, and a video tutorial, so you're not figuring it out completely from scratch. The S15 is the best option if you want a proper tool setup. 3 knives that cover every stage of carving, a leather strop to keep them sharp, and a beginner's guide. Everything in one box. If you'd rather make something specific on day 1, the Comfort Bird kit is easier to start with. The wood blank is already roughed out. The tutorial walks you through every step, and most people finish their first carving in 1 session. We have a separate video that goes through all 6 beginner kits in detail. Which one fits which situation, what's actually inside each one, and why the number of tools in the box matters less than you'd think. That's linked in the end screen. Either way, the point isn't the kit. The point is to put your hands on something and see what happens. Links are in the description below. See you in the next one.